Hi, this is Nick Maley here in St. Martin. They call me the Yoda guy because the pictures of me assembling the radio-controlled version of Yoda that was in Luke's backpack on Empire Strikes Back. And I'm here to say hi to the Cantina Club.
We all know round here, Solo always does shots first. Singing no, raise your glass, and sing no, sing it with me.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cantina Club. This week we're going to discuss Season 3, Episode 4 of The Mandalorian. And so let's go ahead and just jump right in. Let's give our first impressions. What did you think, Gundark?
Yeah, I wanted to start out with this one. I absolutely love this episode. To me, it did what Star Wars does best. It gives great action sequences with a lot of heart. And there was one particular action sequence it's become like one of the best moments in Star Wars for me. And I'm just gonna set aside, I'm gonna say in advance, Greedo's just gonna have to settle his snout and let me
it was
talk.
It was the dart contest, wasn't it?
let me talk when we get to the flashback sequence. I'm gonna have first and last word.
Oh,
so
you want to control speech. I see how it is.
Gundark's word will be law on that sequence.
Oh.
But I love this episode.
I'll happily give you that in exchange for something I actually want later, probably in another episode. So remember that.
How about you, Corellian?
I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. Probably not as much as you did, it doesn't sound like. Because I guess coming off of the heels of last week's episode, I just thought it was a little bit of a step down. A little bit bummed out by the running time. You know, you get used to a 55-minute episode, and suddenly it's like, 32 minutes. Like, okay, we get half a show this week. When it felt like, I think that was actually something that had this story continued and just made it a little bit longer, just put a little bit more into it, made it a little bit more of a story. I think I would have liked it better, but again, not taking anything away from what happened. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it, just not quite as much as the previous week overall. All right, what about you, Greedo?
Yeah, probably the same. I enjoyed it, but it was skirting the line for me of filler for the Mandalorian parts. I get that we have to see them if they're going to be significant. This covert's going to be significant. We have to see things happen. But like you said, why not give us 20 more minutes and put some more plot points in there to advance the story? There was only kind of one thing advanced in the main story, so, but aside from the fact that we're all aware of how few episodes we get, that's my main critique, is that I want more from the season, and the season's starting to run out. So, but it was a fun episode and had some unexpected. They always manage to throw some surprises in every year, and they did again here. So,
yeah, exactly. All right. So, do we want to just talk about the flashback part first, since it was a little bit of an aside from the main story that was going on?
Yeah, I want to start with that.
All right. Well, Gundark is called first word and last word, so let's get into it.
It was my favorite sequence, and thinking about it afterwards, it's now kind of become a favorite. It will be a favorite scene for me from Star Wars. And it was amazing when I first saw it, but became more amazing when I began to understand what it really was. It's the flashback is precipitated by Grogu hearing the forge pounding whenever the armorer is taking him to make another piece of armor for him. And the armorer is talking about how the Mandalorians are forged through trial and strife, and sometimes the strife reveals weaknesses, and he has the flashback of being helpless at the Jedi Temple during Order 66 occurring. Mm-hmm. And this was such an important scene plot-wise, because we've been wondering all throughout the series, since we found out that Grogu had known Yoda, that he had trained at the Jedi Temple, and then we found out through a previous flashback that he had actually been there when Order 66 had been executed. And we were wondering, how did he get out? Why wasn't he killed with the other foundlings? Who was it that rescued him? Because it looked clear that somebody was going to get him out of the sequence in the previous flashback earlier in the series. And there have been a lot of Yeah, there been a lot of yeah, I get first and last word, and that was a word. So you just cool your snout right now and don't give me any more words. So 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 we're thinking maybe, there's been all this speculation. Is it like one of the main Jedi, one of the famous Jedi that came and got him out of there? And at the beginning of the flashback, all the Jedi who are protecting him keep repeating and get him to Kelleran, just get him to Kelleran. And I'm thinking, who the hell is Kelleran? And
Yeah.
I'm wanting to like look away and look it up on my phone, and I'm like, I can't look away. I gotta keep
Right.
watching this. And then he gets put into, all the Jedi sacrifice their lives. Grogu gets put into the elevator, heads down, the doors are gonna open, and I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be one of the main Jedi making a cameo on here to rescue him.
Yeah.
And there's this Jedi, he's got this amazing robe with the gold embroidery. He looks like he is just badass. I don't know who the hell he is. And I'm thinking, is this someone from Clone Wars that I just forgot? And
Right.
from the moment you see him that he is just total business, and he tells Grogu, don't worry, kid, I'm going to get you out of here. It'll be okay. And there is a Jedi Knight who has been struck down right behind Grogu in that elevator. And he just calmly whips down, picks up the Jedi Knight's lightsaber, and just goes to town with two sabers on all of these
Yep.
clone troopers coming after him. And the scene just gets more and more badass. I love the flight with the speeder and into the subway and playing chicken with the subway train, and then bumping past the little piece of rock from Coruscant that was a major point in the last episode. And then finally ending up with the Naboo fighters helping him to get away. And I like the fact that he survived too. And so I'm thinking, who the hell is this? When I get to the end of this episode, I've got to go look it up, find out who is this person. So we get to the end of the episode, I'm watching the credits, and I see Ahmed Best's name come up, and my heart just broke in two. And I just get all teary eyed even thinking about it now. I'm like, that was my best. Oh my God. I didn't recognize
I'm
him.
surprised you didn't recognize it. I like, as soon as the door opens,
No.
like, oh, it's Jar Jar.
I didn't recognize him. Yeah, and Jar Jar, to have the guy who played Jar Jar Binks
Yeah.
coming back to be given that moment, it was to an actor, a Star Wars actor who so deserved good karma after
Right.
all that he went through for playing Jar Jar Binks, the harassment,
Yeah.
and it just brought back my memories of the prequel trilogy when we first saw him, and the character was like universally reviled, and I felt so sorry for him then. Looking at images of the work that he did, working so hard to create the character in the first movie, and thinking about him being an unknown actor and this being his first entrance into Star Wars, thinking that surely this is going to be the breakthrough role for him as an unknown actor in Hollywood, and then have it kind of be both the beginning and the end of a career. What he went through with that, for him to get a great moment where he gets to play a badass Jedi Knight, was awesome.
That was
And
really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed
I
that.
thought that just uplifted me. But more than that, when I began to think about it, I thought, oh, I've seen him play a Jedi before, I know. And then I remember that Jedi Challenge game show for kids on Disney's YouTube channel. And I had seen a few scenes from that, and it just didn't register with me at first. And so I went back and looked it up, and that was the same Jedi. He was named Kelleran back in the Jedi Challenges kids game show. And he was playing a Jedi in that game show that was training younglings, and there were kids going through an obstacle course. So it was just perfect that he shows up like that. I thought it was a great choice that they used that character rather than bringing in one of the well-known Jedi, because to me it was a good world building choice, because you're taking a tiny side character most people would not even know anything about from other Star Wars media, bringing him in and making you want to know more about him. I wanted to know, who the hell is that guy? Where did he come from?
Yeah.
So you're bringing in a new character and making it very interesting, and you're doing it in such a way that you give grace to an actor of Star Wars who was so mistreated. It just worked on so many levels, and to see that character using his badass Jedi skills to protect a child too was just in keeping with the overall ethic of the series, the Mandalorian series. And I liked how the other Jedi knew, they just kept repeating, get him to kill her. And they knew that if they could get the kid to kill her, and Kelleran would get him out of there. So it sounds like protecting kids is like Kelleran's superpower. Why he wasn't there whenever the other babies were slaughtered, I don't know. I don't care. There was a good reason for it, because when he was there, he knew what he was doing and he got it done.
Yeah.
So I love that part.
Yeah.
That's my first word.
We'll come back
I'll
around for
have
the
like-
last word here in a second. I enjoyed it. I love the flashback. It's possibly my favorite part of the episode. Actually, I think it was. Anytime we go back to that Order 66 time and Coruscant and all the stuff going on in the Jedi Temple and all over the planet, I just get fascinated by that, because to me it's just expanding, what we already know about that occurrence and that part of the story. So I've always enjoyed that stuff, and they keep giving us a little bit more, like a breadcrumb here, breadcrumb there. Now they're expanding more on it. So I love the fact that it was on my best, and we get a little bit of a Jar Jar redemption there,
Yeah.
at least for the actor, if not the character. So I do like to see that, in spite of the blowback that he got back in the early 2000s for his portrayal of Jar Jar, that he's maintained, a status in the Star Wars, universe. He voiced the character most times on Clone Wars. When he appeared, it was mostly, every once in a while they would have a different actor, probably because of scheduling conflicts or something. But he hasn't shied away from coming back even to the character of Jar Jar, the one that he got lambasted for. So I'm happy to see that he's still a part of the Star Wars universe, and now they actually gave him this sort of really cool role. I thought that was really nice. But yeah, I was like you. I was expecting it to. First of all, I thought we were going to get an Anakin cameo.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get a Hayden Christensen cameo when they were coming through the door. I thought it was going to open and we were going to see him walking in, even if it was just for a second from the distance. I thought they were going to actually put that in there, but of course they didn't. But yeah, I also thought, like you, that it was going to be one of the well-known Jedi that was suddenly the doors were going to open, and it was going to be somebody that we knew, rescuing him and whisking him off or whatever. But overall, yeah, I thought that was a great scene. Really, really enjoyed that. I'd be interested to see if they go back and show us any more of that at some point, if they show the continuation of where he took him from Coruscant. So Greedo, it's time for your snout.
my snout has taken a lot of
A lot
abuse
of
so
hits
far
today.
in this episode. No, I was just kidding around with, I think people throw the word amazing around so much these days that it no longer means anything. It's just like an exclamation point in a row of 5 exclamation points that you've already used, So how special can it be when it's it's like, but anyway, it was really good. I'm not gonna, rain on your parade, but it was really good. I knew who it was immediately, just because I've always kept up with Ahmed best, and I saw him at Celebration, the last Celebration, where he got a terrific reception, which was, I felt the same kind of way you did with this scene, or when you found out it was him from Celebration. It was like seeing him finally get standing ovation and people acknowledge the stuff he went through, because all that really happened to him was he got a part that was ill-conceived, did the best he could with it, and he happened to be doing that in the return of the greatest franchise ever, and at the moment that the internet matured into the vicious kind of beast that it became, or was maturing. People say, you said he was universally despised. I don't think that's true. I think the people on the internet who were of an age to use the internet at that time started the hate train for the Phantom Menace and the hate train for Jar Jar, deserved or not, it doesn't really matter, but it was bad timing, so the kids that were 12 and under or whatever that now still like Jar Jar, and believe it or not, they're out there. He was some of them. He was their favorite character. George Lucas is, sometimes knows what he's doing. It just goes too far or whatever. When he doesn't have people reining him in. But those people are out there, and they're of an age where they, give back the love to him and stuff. And I think we're seeing a link to the prequels, a true link to the prequels, by using him in that role. Just like if they kind of fooled us with the elevator. They've got this meme going with elevators and Jedi between and doors, between Vader, Luke, corridors, elevators, and now Kelleran Beck or whatever his name is. And but the main thing that was important to me was he did a fantastic job with the part. Like his facial acting and his body, he looked like he knew what he was doing with the lightsabers.
Yeah.
I'm always frustrated about how incompetent they make the other Jedi in comparison. I feel like if you had 5 Jedi, you should be able to take out a whole, like ship full of clone troopers pretty easily.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of Order 66, it just seems like it's not happening. But anyway, the thing I wonder about that whole sequence is it seems to really, really imply that Baby Yoda was of significance.
Yeah.
People were willing to die and sacrifice basically the temple. They
Yeah.
didn't go protecting the temple, charging to the entrances, the defense positions. These Jedi, a whole team of them were evidently assigned to protect this specific youngling, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of younglings who died, all of them. So it does make you wonder. And then they had they mentioned Beck by name, and then he said, I'm taking you to some friends of mine, which were obviously Naboo soldiers. They were wearing the uniforms and stuff, and they had the chrome ship, the reflective ship of the same design. And the ship was ready to go with some kind of hyperspace coordinates already in it.
Yeah.
So again, now we're kind of complete on this story of him getting out of the temple, Grogu getting out of the temple. We don't know what preceded that. We don't know why he was there. We don't know why the Jedi were so determined to protect him. We don't know if he was a target in particular of someone or something. There could be a whole nother subplot here.
I was Naboo involved.
It may not even be Palpatine. It could be some other dark force. The galaxy's huge. There could be someone threatening Baby Yoda. It could be Yoda's offspring still. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, he's 50 years old. So but anyway, I found all that interesting that they're kind of confirming they're going in the direction of he's special, which makes me wonder why Luke doesn't have any information about him. Will Luke uncover information about him? Will somebody come back for him, or will the job just continue to be protect him for the future, for whatever that might be? I'm wondering if we're heading towards some kind of cameo from Frank Oz, from Yoda at some point.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be interesting.
Where Grogu speaks his first words or something, or I know it's after Yoda's death, but I mean, he's kind of been getting more intelligible this season. But anyway,
I think that's what they're building.
I think there's a lot worse things they could do than give Ahmed Best a cool moment like this, and I was all for it. And especially since the guy's a good performer, and all the actors from Phantom Menace, they were telling all their friends, just wait till you see Ahmed Best. He's going to be the next Eddie Murphy. He's going to take over Hollywood and stuff. They thought he was incredible, from being on set with him. So, he's talented, and he's a physical performer and everything. And it was cool to see him land that part, where if I didn't know that was him, I wouldn't have questioned it. I would have just been like, oh, who's this cool character, and also I would have been like, another Jedi survived Order 66. Another one.
8,000 Jedi survived.
Yeah. It's like, obviously it took a while for Vader to kick in for Anakin, where he's still doing Anakin stuff, like letting all these Jedi escape like a sieve, from the Jedi temple. I did love the shot of it burning behind them. And I know cool. The other thing I wanted to say was about the visual effects. It was really cool seeing, again, more Coruscant used. And there's a thing going on where it's kind of, you can tell it's fake at times. Like, you can tell there's either the volume or they're putting elements together, almost old school like. And I know a lot of people are going to probably hate on some of that. I read some criticism from the last episode where they said Coruscant looked kind of fake and stuff. I like that stuff because I don't need the illusion to be perfect. And also it takes me back to all the green screen stuff when it didn't look right, and to me it's consistent. It's just like using a puppet for Yoda instead of using CGI for Yoda. There's a history there, whether it's superior or not. It makes you feel a certain way. So I know for young people that just want everything to look spectacular and flawless, they may criticize it, but I kind of dug it when the bike looked a little bit, like
Right.
out of phase with the rest of the stuff or whatever. And then that doesn't bother me. So I think it's pretty cool, actually.
No,
So.
I mean, I get the point you're making, and I agree with the point you're making. I will take umbrage with Puppet Yoda though from Phantom Menace. That
Oh
was
yeah,
Oh,
one of the
that was
worst
a
things I've ever
mistake.
seen in my
Yeah.
entire
was
life.
kind of
Yeah.
unforgivable.
I will take
They were
CGI
way too-
Yoda in Phantom Menace any millions of days
Yoda was
before
ill. He was
before
ill
the
while making
ridiculous
that film.
puppet they made for that. That's the
And
thing that I remember we couldn't get our heads around. It's like, wait, so in
Yeah.
1980 they were able to make this puppet that
Yeah.
literally looked real, and then suddenly
Yeah.
22 years later, a technology advancing, they're like, they make this like looks like they literally have Kermit the Frog in there. It's like,
Yeah, it looked like it stayed in the silicone bake machine like too long and it shrank or something.
right?
But yeah, he looks very desiccated and everything. But
Yeah.
interestingly, I won't derail this about our episode talk, but Nick Malley, when we met him in St. Martin, explained why that is perfectly. And I don't know if I sent you the video of that or not. I think I videoed part of that chat, but I asked him, I said, how come they can't do Yoda anymore? Because I think the one in The Last Jedi was way closer, but not right.
Still
And
not, yeah.
and subtle
Still not
differences
perfectly right.
put
Yeah.
subtle differences put you in that uncanny valley to where even though it's Frank Oz operating and it's his voice, it's just different enough to throw you off from what you're used to. We've seen Empire Strikes Back a zillion times,
Yeah.
and he explained that they don't use enough foam padding around the skull. They go ahead and do the molds and stuff, but the face looks more shrunken because they don't use the same layers of padding
The
around the
padding to
face.
flesh it out.
Yeah, and then he said also a lot of Yoda's close-ups, like in the X-wing scene, were the inferior animatronic Yoda that he built because they were behind schedule, and they only had one that was fully articulated, and it was the one
Oh,
from
okay.
Yoda's hut, where he's like,
Yeah.
looking
It
around
has
stuff.
to be
And the one
convincing.
from the X-wing, they shot him a little further away, and instead of having individual controls in his eyes were linked to move together. So instead of working against us, thinking that's less human, it actually comes across as more human. And so by the time of Return of the Jedi, where Yoda gets the lazy eye before he disappears, they're back to using the more advanced puppet that I forget. I've drawn a blank on who. We all know who
Yeah.
built him.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart. Can't
Yeah.
remember.
But he's
Freeborn.
Yeah,
Stuart
Freeborn.
Freeborn built it.
Yep.
And they built in all these controls for individually being able to do the ears, individual eyes, and the one that Malley had to do in like 24 40 hours. I mean, he had to do it he had to build it from 2 days, had far less stuff, but to me is the more convincing puppet. But he said it comes down to all those little details of how his teeth look. He said the original teeth were much bigger and chunkier and longer, and he filed them back. So if they're using some of the original teeth, they'll look off. Plus he said if you don't use the right foam around the mouth, it looks like he's wearing dentures, and he's lost his dentures, which we've seen in some of the
Interesting.
movies
Okay.
and stuff. So I mean, he explained the whole thing, and it was I was like, dude, why didn't they get you
Why don't they just get you to come do it
I
again?
know
Yeah.
Freeborn's gone; he can't do it. But I mean,
Right.
you obviously know this stuff. You built and he built one, and for himself from the original specs that looks dead on. I mean, it
Wow.
looks great.
Nice.
So, but I didn't expect that kind of detailed explanation. It was amazing, and there you go. This is why.
Send me that interview. I'd like to check that out.
I'll have to find I taped parts of our conversation. We had we talked for like an hour. It was cool. He's a very cool,
Very nice.
cool guy.
All right, so last word on the flashback Gundark.
Last word is I'm wondering where it's going to lead, kind of like Greedo said. Are we because I was surprised that Kelleran survived. I thought that he was going to give his life getting Baby Yoda.
Yeah, it'd be so
Yeah.
easy for him to be shot, and then you
Yeah.
see like
That's
the
what I
blood after
thought.
they go
Yeah.
to hyperspace or something.
So
Yeah.
I think he's going to be back. I wonder how important a character, how much more of a role he'll have in the series. And I wonder too about the role of the Naboo soldiers there. Was it
Mhm.
Jar Jar that sent them? Who sent them?
Could have been. Could have, because he
So,
was senator at that point.
yeah, so what's
Yeah.
what's coming from that? And truly, I hope there isn't going to be a Jar Jar cameo. I wouldn't mind having a mention of Jar Jar,
Hmm.
but I would just like to see Ahmed Best continue on with that Jedi character because
Yeah,
the character
that
was
would be
just so
cool.
interesting to me.
And
Well,
I
I
So
think
wouldn't have
what
I wouldn't have
looking
a problem
forward
with
to
the Jar
that.
Jar cameo. I
I
think that'd be
wouldn't
cool.
either. Yeah, as long as they, they would know how to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I would love to his cameo to have been like there's two ships there, and he goes, "Misa, lead them away," and he gets in a ship that looks just like that one, and they see it going over the horizon, and it just explodes, and you're left like, Misa, think he bought it for sure this time, but
That's funny.
yeah, that would have been a good cameo for him. And Keller and Beck going, yeah, you lead him away. Good idea, Jar Jar. Go
Goodbye,
for
Jar
it.
Jar.
That's funny.
The ship's like spinning. I'll try spinning. Is this a good
That's funny.
trick?
So okay, so that's it for the flashback. Let's get to the rest of the story, which starts out, of course, with they're back at that sort of cave area where the Mandalorians have all sort of set up their camp and everything, where the armorer is plying her trade. And we're having basically foundling trials, it looks like, where they're going up against each other, and we have Grogu in his first trial, which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, it was pretty predictable because it was
Yeah.
standard cinema trope, standard film trope, standard cinema trope, where it sets it up to look like, oh, he's going to get his butt kicked, he's not ready for this, and the guy's just bang bang popping him with basically the paintball gun, which is basically what it was. And then the whole time I'm in my head, I'm like, he's gonna do some Jedi flip over him and
Mhm.
land, and then bang bang bang, get him like all three times and win. And that's exactly what happened. But it was still cool to see. I thought it was pretty well done. So what were you guys' thoughts on how the story kind of went from there?
Yeah, I like that part too. And I liked what I liked about it, that was predictable, but I liked the interaction with the older Mandalorians throughout that, where Bo-Katan stepped in to put the wrist rockets on his little wrist and
Yeah.
he's like he's cooing and everything. I'm like, you're putting wrist rockets on the arm of a toddler, and then I have to like I gotta remember that he trained for at least a year with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when Mando's saying, okay, he's got this, I'm thinking, yeah, he'll do this. But still, it was just kind of unnerving to see this little shaky toddler being given a
A deadly
weapon.
weapon or something.
Yeah.
John Favreau said in some kind of recent interview mentioned that he spent at least 2 years with Luke.
2 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
Interesting.
kind
Well,
of
that
they're kind
changes
of
the timeline a bit.
redefining the timeline a little bit. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
don't know what's official and what isn't with Star Wars ever. So I would take that
Yeah.
with a grain
Yeah.
of salt. They can change it whenever they want.
Sure.
That
They
makes
could say
sense.
it's 3 months next week,
But one thing too, I want to say something about the beginning of that scene. It was interesting to me that Grogu was away from all the others at the beginning. Like
Mhm.
he had been he meditating on the beach, and then he was trying to eat the crabs there, play with the rocks and all. And I just have a feeling like he's kind of disconnected from being a warrior,
Yeah.
and Mando had to kind of push him into it to show off your skills, kid. So I thought that
Mhm.
was interesting because I wonder now, where are they going to go with his Jedi skills? What's
I
going
think
to
Right.
happen?
I think Grogu's very reluctant with everything.
Yeah.
He has to be coaxed. Luke had to coax him to try
Yeah.
things and say stop being afraid. And here he was more comfortable sitting alone and watching the others. And then when he saw them physically pushing each other, he's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to be a
Yeah.
part of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wants to be a Mandalorian to be close to Din Djarin and to protect him and all that, not necessarily to come to all the physical altercations the Mandalorians seem to love doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought they project a lot with Grogu's
Yeah.
face
And the
and
sports
everything.
dad competition,
Mhm.
Mando and Paz Vizsla, got their respective foundlings in the in the competition. And Paz Vizsla, like, what did they say? The kid said, he's too small to fight, and Mando says, we don't speak until we know. And he
One
said,
does
well,
not
I
speak
know.
unless one knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. He
Yeah.
said, well, maybe this lesson is for you. And then Paz Vizsla repeats at the end, one does not speak unless one knows. We later find out Son walks off sulking. and then
Right.
gets kidnapped by the dragon.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
this is part of the creed that gets broken quite often. One does not speak unless one knows, but they come from a philosophy where they feel like they have everything set in stone, so they always know. So I'm not
Right.
sure how that applies, but I did want to mention Paz Vizsla, his physical actor. John Favreau was doing the voice. He's not doing the voice anymore. The
Oh, he's
guy
not?
in the
Okay.
suit is now doing the voice, which
Oh,
makes me, he's been doing it all year. So it makes me wonder if he's going to take the helmet off at some point and they want the
Yeah.
consistency
Yeah.
of letting the guy in the suit play the character.
Mhm.
yeah,
So I
that's
think that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Because the
may
whole
see him
deal
without a
about the
helmet at some
helmet,
point.
whether or not you keep the helmet on becomes important. We're seeing already conflicts about the creed and what it is to be a Mandalorian. So maybe there will be Mandos like him who will change their creed. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
Maybe
know
they
that.
have
That's
some, maybe they
interesting.
have some rule too. Like if somebody is appointed, the Mandalore, like the ruler, I wonder if everybody takes their helmet off to bow to them, like one time or something to show their face
Hmm.
or to make themselves vulnerable, or you know what I mean? Almost
Yeah,
like
it's
showing your
interesting
neck to the
idea.
boss wolf,
Yeah.
or rolling over, for the boss wolf. I wonder if there could be some scene like that where they all take their helmet. That'd be pretty cool if that happens. But yeah, anyway, so what that scene reminded me of on the beach was Favreau and Filoni playing with action figures. It really, I almost
Yeah.
expected to be like a Twilight Zone episode where you pull back and they're inside a diorama and they're playing with them, because all that was going on in the background that just it looked like action figures being moved around to me, and that's where a lot of those ideas come from probably. And they say this is basically us just playing with our toys and all the things we wanted to do. And then of course the human Paz Vizsla's kid gets defeated by Grogu, which
Ragnar.
the rules were Ragnar
Uh,
Lothbrok. The rules
Yeah.
seem really weird
Ragnar
because
Lothbrok.
Ragnar Lothbrok.
because
Yeah.
he's shooting Grogu one at a time and Grogu shoots him 3 times, and they go,
Yeah.
oh, game. It's like I kind of felt that was unfair too for the kid.
Yeah.
But he wanders off to kick rocks or clams or whatever, and and of course the big
Raptor
Tyrannosaurus
thing.
bird
Yeah.
comes
Dragon.
down. The Q, the whatever, comes down the pterodactyl and grabs him, and it comes out that this has happened like 3 times before.
Yeah.
And in between we also got a giant alligator turtle attack. So I'm beginning to question the mental capacity of these Mandalorians
Of why they would stay there. Yeah.
right. And they're always ready for a fight no matter what. It's like no matter how many they're going to get killed or whatever. So it's like, but why not just
Move to
you
another
have to
part
train
of the
on this
planet.
beach? Is it, do you need the sand? Is it, what, do you need the sand and water? Why do you have, why are you fighting these prehistoric creatures for it? But maybe the rest of the planet's worse. But it's like Mandalore seemed fairly safe. You
Well,
just had
then
some
go
troglodytes.
back to Mandalore, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, you
go
could
back
beat those
to one of
troglodytes
those
easy.
moons, like the
Yeah,
moon
or at least go
where-
back to one of the moons.
At least
Those
they're
are
not ginormous
clearly more
like
inhabitable.
these
You can do
things.
that.
Of course, if the mythosaur gets pissed off when you come back, then you might have another problem. But yeah, that whole thing, and he's like, let's follow it, it'll kill the child. And then he runs out of gas and he goes, oh, I always run out of gas. It's like, what? Oh, why didn't you guys scout its lair, before, or take one of your ships or something? The whole thing, that whole plot to me didn't make any sense at all. And then they put together like a searchers type thing. Bo-Katan leads it, and it's all for them to just have this like eating the beans from
Yeah.
Blazing
Right.
Saddles scene,
Right.
like out in and they're in no hurry to save this kid whatsoever.
That's what I
It's
kept
Yeah,
wondering.
that
It's like
was
if the
a-
thing
like,
takes it away
this
to
kid
its
is
children, it's
dead.
gonna
I
like
have
eat it
news for you.
immediately, you would think.
Yeah,
And there's like
yeah.
the whole next day they're still just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys want to go? I'm probably gonna go hang out and do a couple. I gotta run a couple errands first, and then we'll get going.
Allow me to inform you how birds operate. They go for the soft parts first. So you may recover your son, but he won't have any eyes and he won't have anything else that was soft.
Exactly.
So you're not going to have any more heirs. Let's just put it that way. And the family line probably ends here. So good job on, the sense of urgency to rescue that kid. But
we got an interesting part of the lore there as well, that around the campfire scene, that apparently they do take their helmets off to eat, but you have to do it alone. You have to go
We
off
saw
and
that in
find your own
season 1.
spot.
We
And if
saw
you're
that in
the
season
leader
1.
of the hunting party, then you get the right to stay by the fire and take your helmet off. We learned that as well. So interesting.
And if you're the
little
if you're the
asterisks in
if you're the
in
bottom of the
lore.
hunting party, your helmet gets used as the toilet on the trip.
Mhm.
Or to cook beans out
Exactly.
of or whatever. But why don't they just wear like a mask under the helmet? Then if you take the helmet off, you've got, is it your eyes
I don't know.
shutting?
I
That
don't
whole
know.
helmet thing has always been ridiculous.
I know, and they've stopped saying, did you take it off in front of anyone else? That used to be the thing. Din
Yeah.
Djarin
That's
took it
just,
off
did
in
you
that
take it off?
village to eat,
Right.
where he was met
Yeah.
that woman and the scout walker and all that. And so yeah,
Yeah, yeah. If I were Bo-Katan at that point, I would have been okay. This is enough amount of here.
Also,
Eat all
why didn't Din
alone.
Djarin, why didn't go back with her ship? They went back with Bo-Katan's ship. Why not get an old school bathtub and just fill it with the living waters and keep it? And that way you can do whatever the heck you
As
want
soon
and
as you
just
take your
bathe.
helmet off, you just take a
Yeah,
bath
I
and you're
bathe
good
in it.
again.
Yeah, and you can also charge money. You can charge money to have the others come bathe in it. Just filter it. They got filters, and
Yeah.
I'm sure in the Star Wars
Lots of ways
Cynic.
around the creed.
That is
Lots of
not the
loopholes in the
way.
creed. That is
Okay.
not the way.
So anyway, so we have this night scene that they drop some stuff about her being a war party leader, which she seems to already be in high regard with them for whatever reason. I guess because she found she had the resources to find the lair.
Yeah.
And they climb this thing, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And he's hauling a full machine gun like the
Yeah,
mounts on a
like
Jeep. He's like a 40 caliber machine gun. He's hauling it up the side of this mountain. And some of them didn't seem to have their jetpacks on either. I was like, what are you
What happens
doing?
if you fall? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the crash, crash, thunk. It seems like would disturb the bird more than your jetpacks.
And
That would take
honestly,
the 10 seconds to get up there.
What I kept picturing this whole time during the climb was from season 1 when he was climbing up those sand crawler.
Right.
and that whole long scene of him only to get up there and be immediately boom, just bumped all the way off again. Like that's gonna happen to all these guys. They're gonna take an hour to climb up this thing and immediately just get thrown off.
And so anyway, they get to the top of this thing, and Din Djarin finds some baby birds in there, and Paz Vizsla, no, stop it. Of course, he ignores it and runs right at it.
Of course,
it's my son, and they attack him, and then the mama bird shows up, and the mama bird regurgitates this kid that I guess has been in its stomach.
Yeah, that didn't
for
make
2
sense.
all
days.
night.
I know that the
Now,
armor,
you
and
know,
I don't
they-
know how much armor he had on. I mean, I know that Boba Fett survived the
He had
Starlight.
padded armor, basically.
but,
He hadn't earned any of
yeah.
his best
No,
guard pieces, but he
yeah.
had the
Best guard,
helmet.
yeah.
And we've seen Din Djarin use the helmet as life support before, so
Yeah.
hey, whatever. It's like a Harryhausen movie. It doesn't have to make sense, I guess.
Doesn't have to
Maybe
make
the
sense.
bird spat him out somewhere and then ate him again. I was waiting for him to soften up till he spit him out for the young ones. So then it turns into a big melee because the bird grabs the kid in the talons again and takes off. And so it's jetpack on. Let's forget all the subtlety. That shit totally failed being stealth or whatever. It failed instantly. And so it turns into an aerial battle, which was pretty cool. What did you guys think
I
about
love
that?
that.
I thought that was really visually
Oh,
stunning. Yeah, very well
yes,
done.
The
Yeah.
special effects were awesome.
Mhm.
It was
And you
as
got
good
to
as
see
any
the
of the dragon
different
work in Game
Mandalorians
of
trying
Thrones.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you thought
Right.
so? I didn't think it was that good, but it was.
Yeah, I thought
It was. I liked that they kind of showed a lot of it. It wasn't just a
Yeah.
one-dimensional quick thing. They tried different things to get the kid out.
Yeah.
And then we have Din Djarin saving the kid from plummeting to his death. Paz Vizsla gets knocked down, hits a mountainside, and is stunned, so he doesn't get to save his own kid, but Din Djarin did, which instantly changes the dynamic between those
Yeah.
two characters, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have Bo-Katan lose part of her armor too in the battle.
Yeah.
Which is going to be important in the end. But yeah, the battle with the dragon was, or I call it a dragon. It looked like a dragon from a distance. Was awesome. But when they get back to, they return to the location where they're hanging out, and the armor makes a new, what was it, a shoulder plate or whatever. for
Pauldron,
Bo-Katan. Yeah. The pauldron, and she asked for the insignia of the mythosaur instead of her night owl insignia
Yeah.
on the rest of her armor. And she confesses to the armor that she saw, the mythosaur. What do you make of that scene? That was, I didn't know
That was
quite what.
unexpected for me.
It was
Yeah.
unexpected. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, the armor's reaction to it, of course, at first saying,
Yeah.
oh, well, yes, it's always amazing when you have a vision like that, because thinking, oh, I saw the mythosaur meeting in a dream or a vision. And then she had, no, I really saw a mythosaur. And then she just basically responded, this is the way, and really
Yeah.
didn't even let on what her feelings were about that, whether she actually believed her or whether she was
Yeah.
just kind of keeping her feelings about that, keeping those
It's,
cards close to her vest.
and I wondered why she confessed this to the emperor. I'm still torn about what's going on with her. Did she do this because, did Bo-Katan do this because she is looking for the armorer's support as being the one who is prophesied to reunite the Mandalorians, and she told her, I saw a mythosaur. Or is she doing this because she's actually experiencing an evolution in terms of faith in the Mandalorian creed, and embracing the ancient creed and the ancient symbol of the Mandalorians. So I'm
That
not
was the
sure. Maybe it's
impression I
both.
got.
Maybe it's
I
both.
got the impression that you could easily have taken this like a scene for someone who's a skeptic and they're in a church alone with the priest or the nun for a minute and they say, has God ever answered your prayers? God
Yeah.
answers prayers all the time. No, I mean like I heard God's
Yeah.
voice,
Yeah.
Right.
say something to me, and it's like, oh, God works in mysterious ways. You might be mentally ill also.
This is
It
the
was
way.
I thought she was trying to consult the only spiritual
Yeah.
advisor in a moment where she was alone, figuring that
Yeah.
the armor wouldn't go sharing whatever she told her immediately.
Yeah.
So the
Right.
armor's, pretty.
And I wonder about the armorer's response too. Something about me makes me think that the armorer believed her, but the
I think so
armorer
too,
is not
ultimately.
she's not the kind of Mandalorian though to go rushing to just suddenly follow somebody who sees the mythosaur, or she didn't suddenly follow Jarn when he had the dark saber.
Right.
She understands the significance of these mythic elements of their creed, and that they've got to be used in the right way for them to function with real significance. So I think maybe she's waiting for what Bo-Katan is going to do with that knowledge, before she's like going to commit to, oh wow, maybe the mythosaur, you'll be the one to lead us.
Right.
She's just not going to do that. So I'm wondering if it's still going to lead to a standoff between the two of them whenever they get to uniting the Mandalorians and returning to Mandalore.
Yeah, no,
I
that's a good
will
question.
point out that she was also skeptical of the bathing in the living waters stuff.
Yeah.
She said you cannot come back, and he said, and then she said the only way back is to bathe in the living waters. This is back in Boba Fett, and he said that was all destroyed, and she went, this is the way.
Yeah.
Like you're screwed.
Exactly.
So she really, I don't think she believed that could be done either necessarily, but she took the evidence and tested it how she knew and said he's telling the truth. So I think she would accept it if she saw it or if the evidence was presented to her. But I think she's also
She's careful.
Yeah.
She's not that kind of fanatic who's just careless and running off to follow whoever seems to fit the moment.
And probably in a congregation of any true believers, if you have 100 people, you're going to have 1 to 5 of them they're going to claim to have seen a mythosaur.
Yeah.
You're probably running all over the galaxy looking for the last reported mythosaur, but it's the same kind of thing, so there's always going to be people that take it that might be unbalanced. They got hit in the head. They're too dependent on needing to see something, and so they see it. So she's probably used to hearing that occasionally from people that they saw something, and she's like, she has to explain to them what you saw was a vision.
Yeah.
From too many blows to your helmet. But yeah, that was a cool scene, and she made her a pauldron with the mythosaur on it. And she also made Grogu earlier a roundel or something they called it that had the mudhorn symbol on it. And I'm sure that's gonna come into play where she put it over his heart, his vital area, basically. I'm sure that's gonna come into play at some point. Makes me think someone will be after Grogu at some point, trying to hurt him.
Yeah.
So, and we ought to end with this because this episode is called The Foundling. with
Mhm.
multiple meetings again, and she praised Bo-Katan for having fulfilled the most important element of their creed. She said, saving the family, which I thought was
Mhm.
interesting. So, and it began. The episode also began with the armor telling Grogu, whenever she forged the rondelle for him, that this is created by all these other Mandalorians who gave, for you, because their devotion to the highest thing they can do is give to support a family. So I thought that was interesting. And you got multiple families, and then you got the foundling chicks of the the dragon of the end coming back. So
Yeah, I thought that was really silly, but then I remembered like Mandalorians are shown over and over again as they ride beasts.
yeah,
Mhm.
So
Right.
I guess they're planning to try to
yeah,
train these and ride them when they're grown enough to support a rider or
Yeah, that's what
whatever.
I took from it. I figured they're
yeah.
just going to
Yeah,
train them as their own and
yeah.
utilize
If not,
them.
if nothing else, they'll make a good feast. But rotisserie ginormo chicken.
Ginormo chicken. Yeah. All right.
So let's
So,
rate it.
and yeah, I was gonna say, let's go ahead and do our ratings. Who would like to go first this week? Greedo, you never go first.
I'll go first.
All right.
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay. That's pretty low. Okay. That's lower than I expected. All right.
Well,
I'll
it
go.
just didn't advance the story enough for me, really.
Mhm.
And I loved the best part, like she said, was the flashback, and the rest was it didn't do a whole lot of character
Yeah, it kind of
building,
expanded the lore a little bit, but it didn't really expand the storyline
yeah, it
much.
didn't make
Yeah.
me care a lot more about any of the like. I want to know if we're gonna spend time with this covert. I want to know more about more of the characters. I want to know like I want something, some kind of conflict, some kind of advancement of the story, and it was very slow
Yeah.
in this small amount of time that they gave it. So, but some cool action. Yeah.
What about Corellian?
I'm gonna give it a 7. Again, I agree with Greedo. I think it was a good story. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it. The action stuff was visually stunning. I definitely enjoyed it. However, I just don't feel like I think that the short running time was a mark against it for me, as well as it just didn't move the story forward quite enough. Especially after last week when I felt like we really started to get into some of the some of the stuff that's going to be coming on in the future, and then we just kind of sort of, okay, let's put it back in, not really reverse, but let's just pump the brakes a little bit here for a little bit, before we get going again. So that was the only issue, I guess, I really had with it that kept it from being any higher, but I think it's a solid 7.
So it's a 10 for Gundark then, right?
It's
Yeah.
just it's a 9 for me. It's a
Okay.
9.
Okay,
And
so you have it level with last week's episode.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
9. It's
Wow.
just a different kind of episode than last week's episode. The
Totally
two of
different.
them
You're right.
bookended kind of
Yeah.
gave some of the best of what I thought the show could do. And I didn't mind the running time because I was engrossed throughout it. And I also didn't really feel like it didn't advance the story. I thought important elements occurred with Bo-Katan, Mando, and Paz Vizsla, with the fight against the dragon together, and with Bo's scene at the end with the armor. And then you have the real important flashback there. So to me, for a 30-minute episode, it seemed like it did a lot to advance the storyline while also having some just badass action sequences. I just love the action sequences in it. So,
Yeah.
but of course, my bias too about what happened with the Ahmed Best scene, kind of that popped it even up further
Right.
for me.
It was a
Gave a little
terrific
bit more.
surprise. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't
I
make it.
agree. Yeah, I enjoyed
yeah,
that.
I loved that
I also
scene, and
really
I will
liked the
always
edit.
love it. You liked what?
I liked the editing of Grogu when he was having the flashbacks.
Yeah,
How they would
Mhm.
zoom in on him and then show him from a different angle, and the different expressions he had. Like he was almost dreading the information that was coming to him from the.
yeah,
He was the violence of the forging. He's against violence. I think this. I think the
yeah.
child is against violence, and we see that over and over.
So
And
I
I also
wonder
want
if
to
he might
say I've
grow
been
up to be protector of families. You see what I mean? I mean
could
that
be.
the whole thing was about
Yeah.
families, and that's the important part of their creed. And it may be that he's going to end up using his powers
I got
in
to
a more
run. You guys
protective
sign off
way.
without me, okay?
Okay.
Okay, send me that video when you can. All right, because I'd like to maybe add it to the episode. Okay, he's gone. So, all right. Anyway, any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Just really I'm enjoying this season so far.
No, I am too. Yeah, it's been
I'm
just been very
surprised. It seems
enjoyable.
to me like every episode has been really high quality for me. There's been more consistency to the quality maybe than in the first season for me.
Mhm.
So I agree that I would like to have things maybe moving on a little faster, but I don't know. It depends on how long we want this series to run, you know. And if they're
Sure.
going to give filler episodes that are this good, that also give us a little bit more of what's going to be happening with the overall story arc, I don't mind that so much if they're all this good. But I do hate the fact that we're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I really enjoyed it overall. So top-notch
Yeah.
episode.
Again, I liked it. I think I was just disappointed in the running time a little bit, but the stuff that we got that they did give us, like yeah, and you made a very good point too in your sort of ratings wrap up there, that for a 30-minute episode, they did give us a lot compared to
Yeah.
what they, a lot of times they'll give us that much information spread out over 55 minutes,
Yeah.
so it was good that they got what they did into a 30-minute episode.
So you know what it reminded me of was that episode with Cobb Vanth whenever the townspeople, Mando, Cobb, and the Sand People united to take down the Crate Dragon, the sandworm.
Yeah.
And that was a spectacular episode. I think we gave it a 9 then, and it didn't have, like, it wasn't even connected to the broader storyline hardly at all.
Yeah,
Except
no, that's a
Cobb
good
Vanth
point.
in
It was just a phenomenal episode. And plus it was a season opener too for season 2. That was
Yeah.
interesting that they started with an episode that really didn't advance the main story at all. So
And yet it was still wonderful. So I don't really fault them for not quite moving fast enough.
mhm.
I just do feel like I'm sad that we get so little overall in the season, with only 8 episodes.
Right. That's the thing. Yeah. And I guess that's part of why I get a little frustrated with the running times.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're only giving us 8 episodes to begin with, and then you're cutting it down to 30 minutes. It's like, okay, it's like,
And then we gotta wait a year and a half or 2 years.
and we got to
another-
wait 2 years before we're going to get any more episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The frustrating part of streaming. So,
Yeah.
but not complaining. I love the show. It's great. I really enjoy it. So, all right. Well, I guess that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for episode 5 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. And hit like, subscribe, leave us some comments, let us know what you thought, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
The snout is silent.
The snout is silent. None of this.
Hey, what's going on?
What is it?
Never mind. The more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
This isn't going to be easy.
Good luck.
You must be cautious.
Sing yum nub. Sing yum nub. Come on, sing yum nub. Singing yum nub. Yum nub. Singing yum nub. At the Cantina Club.